Yes! Yes!
You're in the offensive zone, your place for Leafs hockey.
Hey folks, well, are you still with us? I hope so. My goodness, the monkey's off the back, and we somehow got through it. It was a little bit nip and tuck there, I'm not going to lie. Anyways, we're going to get into that. Coach, where are you today?
I'm in a glass case of emotion here, fellas. Like Jim Ralph said on the call on the radio after the winter, what do we do now? I've been wandering around all day. Now I'm not sure what we're supposed to do. There's no self-loathing. There's nothing.
Yeah. KD, how about you? How's the east side?
Well, we're still east side. We're working on some renos here, but we'll have the east side office up and running full capacity by the end of this week.
Beautiful. Okay, well, that's something else. Listen, folks, you know what to do. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, share the content, like the content. It helps spread the word. Leave a comment. We need them. We love them. We've had some doozies lately. I love those chirps. Okay, let's get into it, folks. The Leafs beat Tampa. I want that to sink in. I'm sure you've been stewing in it for the last little bit now, much like the rest of us. But the Leafs finally won a first-round matchup. And I got to say, that was probably the most evenly played game of the series. It was a real nail-biter, back and forth all the way through. And then, of course, John Tavares with the miracle worker at the end in overtime. Something else that's got to feel good. I'm sure it feels good with everyone. Let's look back at the series in its totality. Coach, what do you think? What stood out for you for that series?
Yeah, so we were each right about a few things and wrong about some. We had a mailbag beforehand, and one of the questions was Matthew Nyes going to get in the series? Remember that? I don't know, 10 days ago, where we were all like, there's no way he's going to play in this series. If he plays in this series, we're in trouble. Well, I'll tell you what, he was pretty decent, wasn't he, guys?
He was.
By the way, those 3 overtime wins, right, that we had in their barn, he was on the ice for all 3 of them. Made a nice play to Tavares there for the goal. So that's great. He's not coming out, and not just next series. He's not coming out for 5 years. Right, till free agency. That was a great pickup. Also, Ilya is my man. Samsonov. We said before the series he doesn't have to outplay the guy. The other guy is the best goaltender on the planet. He just needs to make the saves. Well, he went one better. He outplayed Vasilevsky in all but 2 games. Obviously, we got blown out in the first game, and then Vasilevsky was really good in Game 5. But, terrific. More than we could have asked for. As comical, as tragic maybe, as the whole Matt Murray thing was from the day he signed, in my opinion, Samsonov was a great find. So thank goodness that guy comes through. You couldn't have had confidence in him going in. He's 0-7 lifetime, or 1-7, right? Then a couple other quick ones. Austin Matthews. Fantastic. Finds a way to score, and not a garbage goal or a late goal, like a goal that gets us up. That was terrific. And then Luke Schenn was great all series, guys. Yeah. Not just physical, not just taking the edge off of their chirps. Those guys can chirp. You could just see it, right? Wearing us out. But also he unlocked Morgan Riley. And Devo, I think you're going to talk about his series. But having a guy like more stable even than Lyubushkin was last year, like more like kind of Ron Hainsey, let him do his thing, was terrific. I'll leave you with this. The hockey gods have not been kind to us. Right. We have not gotten a bounce. Now, we haven't played well. We haven't coached well. We haven't constructed rosters well. We haven't hung in there well. Like, there's a lot of things we haven't done over this 19-year stretch between second-round appearances. But, man, we can't get a bounce either. We couldn't get a bounce, right? Columbus, Montreal, Tampa, That's an even series last year too. We got to bounce. I'm not sure how to feel. We got to bounce.
Yeah.
It's so
new.
good.
It's new. Absolutely. It is really, for non-Leaf fans who may be watching this, I don't know why you would be. This is really a coming of age moment. I mean, this they say in sports, especially contact sports, they like to say iron sharpens iron, and you really have to kind of get to a point where you feel like you're a top dog, and I think that series was a big moment for a lot of the players on this team. KD, what stood out for you in this series?
Well, kind of, we'll be along the same vein here, but I think I called, with Leafs in 6. The games end up going a lot different than I thought they were going to go. Tampa Bay ended up setting a lot more tempo. Toronto had much more trouble with them this year, I thought, than last year.
Agreed.
Yep, we got the results and we got the bounces, and I don't feel guilty at all because as Coach said, like the Leafs have had no chance, like no good luck. Everything from Tavares getting a knee in the head to bad calls late, like a obstruction pick call, which gets called once every 15 years. So like we've had virtually all the bad luck, and it did turn around for us. So what goes around comes around. It's come around. I think this is a huge coming of age party here, and I really do think it might unlock this team going forward. Who knows? We know, I guess we're taping this now, so I guess spoiler alert. We are playing the Panthers. Sometimes I think people are probably saying, "Oh, thank God," because of Boston's had our number, and maybe Boston had the greatest year of all time. I think we got to be careful what we wish for, but we certainly now have a different series. Like now there's 8 teams left. The playoffs have opened up. There's lots of good teams who are out. There's still good teams that are in, and we're gonna see where it goes. So it's exciting. It's the first time we've seen this since guys like Sundin or Doug Gilmour wore the jersey, right? This is this era of guys can now get into that second tranche of playoffs, and we'll see where their game takes them. And I'm pretty excited to see. We've got a sports card in Toronto, and it's a little more rugged. It's got 4 wheels on now than it used to just be summer radials. Now we're a little more rugged, a little maybe some dents and scrapes on it. But this is a car that can still pick up speed and move. So I'm looking forward to next round. Absolutely.
Love the metaphors. Love the analogies, KD, as always.
Is Don Cox driving that thing?
So last episode, I mentioned this, and I felt I had to really because I had probably of the three of us, I had probably given Morgan Riley maybe the hardest time since coming back from injury. It took him a long time seemingly to find his game, and when you're not on your game, I think showing up when the series gets tight against Tampa is not usually the recipe for finding your game as an offensive defenseman who likes to roam a little bit. My goodness, he was fantastic. It was. I mean, we've seen him more than anyone else in these playoff failures, going all the way back. And to me, it was absolutely wonderful to see him put the showing in that he did, because he was exceptional. It really has to be said. He was one of the better players on the roster for the Leafs. I thought that was great.
We've talked about it all year about getting the 44 that we want, and who do we play with them to unlock 44? Well, it turns out he's the one who unlocks himself. We did put someone who played well with him, but he was the one who made the decisions to go and get moving and pinch up and really skate and stick his nose in there. He's fantastic.
Hey, I'll tell you what, that overtime goal doesn't go in, fellas, if he doesn't go to the net. And you may ask yourself, how can your left defenseman be going to the net there? Well, that's him. When he's on, he does that. He knew he had support back. And, terrific.
Excellent. I have to also say a great job by Samsonov. I was a bit critical of him. He had some shaky moments in this series, but overall very solid. He had guys in his face the whole time. Every single shot, there were guys in the crease. So you got to give Coach's guy credit.
Absolutely.
You're my man, Ilya.
And the last thing I wanted to say, I'm not going to do a deep dive and find the episode, but shortly after the trade deadline, when we looked at the pieces that were added by Dubas, and we brought in Gustafsson and Shen, and we're looking at all these defensive pieces that we brought in, and we really at the time only moved out Sandin, and you think to yourself, well, how are we? What are we doing? We're adding guys that are not really going to play, and we had talked about it, fellas. But I said, I kind of think this is looking like a depth play. None of these guys are every moment kind of defensemen, but they're all good role player type guys. This looks like it gives Keefe that move if he needs in a tough situation to shorten his forward bench and go with 7D. If the situation demanded it. The team's built for it now, and you know what? My goodness, the situation was called for it, and it worked. So
it paid off.
I think
it was a risk.
I think
it was a risk turning putting two guys in hadn't been in the first 5 games. It paid off. Good for you, Keith.
And it was.
I've been really rough on Keith, and that move was risky, but it paid off. Good for you.
It paid off. Good, yeah. So you got to give Dubas credit. He went out and got the horses, and then Keefe did what he needed to do, and I applaud him for it. I think you put that club back in the bag. I don't think we see that for a while. Hopefully, it's a situational kind of move, but that's a coaching win.
Hey, speaking of Dubas and Keefe, those guys are pretty understated, huh? When that goal went in. My son's girlfriend was there watching with me. She's like, "Why are those guys so excited?" Because you see, that guy, he was getting fired, and he was getting fired.
Getting fired? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so folks, I'm sure the win is lovely, and I'm sure it's starting to sink in here. But we also said at the top, Florida just took down Boston. 7 games, overtime, very similar type thing. They had a lead, they gave it up. Boston got up in the third. They scored right at the very end, and then they beat them in overtime. Unbelievable finish. So miracles are happening all over the league. But what this really means, and we don't have the schedule yet, but what this means is Toronto has home ice advantage going into the next series. So I know we're going to likely do a pretty solid deep dive on this series. We're not necessarily prepped for it. As we get closer to game 1 when the schedule is posted, we'll do a really solid deep dive on what to expect in this series. But just on a broad strokes, KD, what do you think? What do we need to look out for with this Florida team?
Well, it's going to be a different style here. We had a very cerebral team playing sort of a very aggressive and solid kind of trap hockey. We're going to see more of a blitz. Where they're going to try and tilt the ice. They're going to try and come at the D. They're going to dump the puck in. They're going to play heavy playoff hockey, old Canadian Eddie Shore type hockey, and they're going to be tough to beat. Absolutely.
Yeah, the forecheck is going to be scary, and that size. This is another big, tough team, folks. And you'll recall before the last series against Tampa, I suggested that the secret to the Leafs' success was being able to skate Tampa out of the rink. They never really got a chance to do it. Tampa actually really dictated most of the play in that series. What do you think, Coach? What's going to happen, or how do you think this matchup sort of shapes up here with Toronto and Florida?
Yeah, so the Leafs take care of business. Boston, as heavy favorites, blow a 3-1 lead. Yeah. Are we in opposite land? If we are, Doug, I don't want to know where the bus is to leave this place, because I'm just very happy. Not going to chirp the Boston here. People, maybe a little bit, but it's an interesting contrast to us in Florida. Okay, so last year we lost to Tampa, and it was a super even series, right? And we decided to run it back. Ran the coach back, ran the GM back. Ran the roster really kind of back until the trade deadline, and then massive overhaul, right? 30% of the team was changed over, and finally got us over the hump in another very even series. Well, Florida won the President's Trophy, and then couldn't get past Tampa, blew it up, fired the coach, made a big trade, all that stuff. So ends up they didn't have a great regular season, but the thing of it is, the rest versus not rest. They've been in the playoffs for a month now, just trying to get in. They get in as the 8th seed, and they're battle tested. I watched a few games in that series. They forecheck hard, where Tampa picks their spots. The Tampa can come heavy, but they don't all the time. The one difference, though, is there's some indecision in goal on that team. Like, they don't have the best goaltender on the planet. Now, neither do the Leafs. But, Alex Lyon and then Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky's pretty good here to end. I think he'll start the series. But that guy's making 10.5, and he was outplayed. He didn't play in the last 10 games of the season.
That's right.
Maybe we get some pucks in and see if we can create some indecision. I don't know, guys. Like you said, Katie, everybody's good. We're down to 8 teams. Everybody's going to be good. Either team was going to give us a tough matchup. I'm just happy we have a matchup. My buddy Jeff Bibby texted me before this game tonight, Florida versus Boston, and said, hey, who would you rather play? And I texted him back, no one has asked me that in 20 years. So we're happy to be here, folks. We're just happy to be here.
Yeah, I think these teams this matchup against Florida is very similar to the matchup against Tampa. They can come heavy. They have some guys on the bottom end of their forward group that are big guys. Not fleet of foot certainly anymore. I'm thinking about Eric Stahl, but he's a stone cold Leaf killer. I'm trying to remember the last time I watched a game where the Leafs played him and he didn't score, or at least make some incredible play. You've heard me say that the Leafs love to make certain players look good. He's a guy that always looks good against the Leafs. Their first 2 lines can come at you. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I think there might be some ways you can pick apart the bottom part of their D-core, but we'll see. I guess it will be a different kind
That's
of
what
matchup.
They say about us. That's what they say.
Yeah,
about us.
You would
Exactly.
have, if you watch that series, they have to be saying that. Hey, how you doing, Coach, on the Florida podcast side?
Yeah.
Because there's got to be a mirror, right? Hey, by the way, here's another thing that's very similar. Brandon Montour is all over the place. He had a great series. Tons of offense, very similar to the way 44 is playing. 2 tonight, yeah.
Scored 2 tonight. Yeah. He was the difference maker, and ultimately. I'm
not sure we have a Kachuk, but they don't have a and we might not have a Barkov either. They don't have a Matthews or a Marner, and let's hope not an O'Reilly and a Tavares.
Yeah,
and it's going to be a great series.
It should be a great series. I think that from where we sit right now, it's going to be how the Leafs manage the forecheck. I think if they're moving the puck, once they get the puck past the blue line, they should be able to skate this team. I mean, I said that last series too, and it didn't necessarily work out. But they should be able to skate with this team and outskate this team. It'll be interesting to see how the special teams line up. Toronto and Tampa were very similar during the season. Both had some fits and spats in the series, but I think Tampa was early in the series was pretty deadly. I don't necessarily see the same firepower from Florida, but anything can happen in a series.
Kachuk had a huge year. In about a week from now, everyone will forget, on our side, will forget that we hate Corey Perry, because we're all going to hate Kachuk.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, folks, get some rest. Get some rest. We got a couple of days here before we have to worry about Florida. Get some rest. Eat some protein. Have some fruit. Drink some water. That's a good idea. Drink some water. And we'll see you right before the next series, like we always do, right here on the OZone.
That felt good.